All right, Golden State fans, what a night it was. The energy inside Chase Center was absolutely electric, and honestly, this was one of those games that reminds you why basketball can be such a beautiful mix of rhythm, chaos, and pure talent. The Warriors went up against Memphis, and from the opening tip, it was clear they came ready to dominate. The score might not tell the whole story, but if you watch the game, you could feel it. Golden State controlled the pace, the flow, and most importantly, the confidence from start to finish. Now, what really stood out in this one wasn't just the usual brilliance from Steph or the leadership of Draymond. It was the young guns stepping up and proving that the next generation of Warriors might already be here. Jonathan Kuminga and Brandon Podziemski, or Pods, as fans like to call him, showed exactly why the franchise keeps talking about them as future cornerstones. These two weren't just passengers in this win, they were driving it. Kuminga, man, this was the kind of performance that makes you sit up and say, okay, he's figuring it out. 25 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists. That's a grown man stat line. You could tell he came in with a purpose. He attacked the rim with confidence, finished through contact, and rebounded like someone who's tired of being labeled as a potential star. Sure, he still had a couple of turnovers and didn't hit from three, but his mid-range game looked sharp, and his energy on both ends made a massive difference. This was the version of Kuminga that fans have been waiting for, the one who knows he belongs. And then there's Pods. Every time this kid steps on the floor, he seems a little more comfortable, a little more composed. Against Memphis, he put up 23 points, hit 5 of 7 from deep, and added 6 assists and 4 rebounds. What impressed me most wasn't just the scoring, it was the decision-making. He looked calm running the offense, finding open teammates, and not forcing bad shots. That's a huge step forward for someone who's been seen mostly as a rebounding guard with hustle energy. If he can keep distributing like that, we're talking about a player who could seriously shape the future of this backcourt once Steph eventually hangs it up. The thing is, Pods doesn't need to be Curry. He just needs to understand the system, keep his energy consistent, and bring that IQ to every possession. And last night, he did just that. The way he spaced the floor, kept the ball moving, and knocked down those open threes. That's exactly what this team needs from him. But let's not forget about the depth questions that still hang over this roster. The win was great, don't get me wrong, but there are still concerns about size and rotations. Quentin Post didn't get as many minutes as he probably should have, and that's something Steve Kerr and the staff might need to think about going forward. Post isn't lighting up the box score yet. He went 1 for 4 with a couple of rebounds and 2 blocks, but that's not the point. Games like this, where you've got control and a decent lead, are perfect opportunities to let young players gain experience. Learning how to protect a lead, not just chase one, is a big part of becoming a reliable rotation guy. I get it. You've got Draymond sliding to the 5, Horford managing his minutes, and the Clippers coming up next on a back-to-back. But if you're serious about preparing for the big dogs like Denver, Minnesota, or San Antonio later in the season, you've got to build confidence in your frontcourt depth now. Because when you're facing Wembanyama and those long, athletic Spurs, or the physical front lines of teams like the Thunder and Rockets, you're going to need every big body you have. Speaking of the Spurs, they're off to a hot start, sitting at the top of the West early on, and that's not by accident. That roster is deep. Wemby, Stephon Castle, Dylan Harper, Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sachin. That's a young, hungry core that plays with no fear. So for the Warriors, these early season reps against physical teams like the Grizzlies are critical. It's about setting the tone, testing rotations, and finding combinations that work when the schedule gets tougher. Now, let's talk a bit about efficiency, because this was one of the most balanced offensive games the Warriors have played so far. Jimmy shot 6 of 8, Kuminga 9 of 14, Steph 5 of 11 with 4 of 9 from 3, and Pods 8 of 14. That's the kind of shooting spread that puts pressure on defenses everywhere. When everyone's clicking like that, you don't even need a 50-point Curry night. You just need discipline, ball movement, and trust. What's exciting here is how the chemistry between the vets and the young guys is starting to click. You can see Draymond mentoring in real time, talking on defense, guiding rotations, keeping the pace steady. Steph looks like he's enjoying watching the kids figure it out, too. There's this growing sense that the team isn't just leaning on the old core anymore. They're actively transitioning toward the next era while still staying competitive. But even with that optimism, there are areas that need fixing. The bench is loaded with guards, too many, honestly. You got Buddy Hield, Gary Payton, Moses Moody, Will Richard, and Pat Spencer all coming off the bench. That's 5 backcourt players. Meanwhile, the frontcourt depth is paper thin. Trace Jackson-Davis and Santos are talented, but they're more tweeners, not true 4s or 5s. The team's balance feels a bit off, and that could become an issue down the stretch when you need size to close games or battle for rebounds against elite bigs. So maybe it's time to start thinking about a move. Not a blockbuster, but something that evens out the roster. The Warriors have an abundance of guards who can contribute on other teams. Packaging 1 or 2 of them for a strong frontcourt piece could be the key to sustaining a deep playoff run. Because right now, the lack of big man depth is the only thing stopping this rotation from being truly complete. Still, this 3-1 start is exactly the momentum Golden State needed. They're proving that even as the league gets younger, faster, and taller, their brand of basketball, spacing, passing, and IQ, still works when executed correctly. And that's what makes this team special. The Dubs might not have the raw size of Denver or the athleticism of Oklahoma City, but they have heart, leadership, and now, a new generation eager to carry the torch. Heading into the matchup against the Clippers, the stakes rise again. This isn't going to be a walk in the park. Kawhi's back, Harden's healthy, Chris Paul is running the show, and the Clippers' frontcourt with Brook Lopez, John Collins, and Zubac is no joke. It's a loaded lineup that can punish you if you let up for even one quarter. The Warriors need to come out swinging, build an early double-digit lead, and control the tempo. Because if you let the Clippers hang around, they'll make you pay. But here's the thing. This Warriors team has already shown they can take a punch and respond. That comeback win against Denver in overtime proved that. They've got resilience. What they need now is consistency. And if guys like Kuminga and Pods keep playing like this, Golden State could quietly become one of the most dangerous teams in the West again. Looking ahead, the real challenge for the Warriors will be finding balance between development and contention. It's one thing to have young players shining in isolated games, but it's another to trust them in high-pressure moments when every possession matters. That's where coaching and leadership will play a huge role this season. You can already sense that Steve Kerr is experimenting more than usual, giving Pods, Kuminga, and even Post different responsibilities to test how they respond. This is a transition phase, not just for the roster, but for the franchise's identity. The dynasty era isn't over, but it's clearly evolving. Steph Curry still anchors everything, of course. His gravity changes how defenses operate, and his unselfishness continues to give others the confidence to perform. But it's refreshing to see nights where the Warriors don't have to rely solely on him to close things out. That's been the Achilles heel in recent years, the overdependence on Steph's heroics. Now, there's an emerging confidence that others can step in, that the offense can flow even when he's not orchestrating every possession. And when that happens, it becomes much harder to guard this team. Draymond Green deserves a lot of credit for that shift, too. When he's locked in, the defensive intensity just elevates. Against Memphis, he anchored the paint, switched on guards, and dictated the energy. His presence still makes everyone else better. You could see it in how the younger players mirrored his communication and positioning. That's not something you teach overnight. It's a culture that's been built through years of accountability. Still, there's a reality that this team can't ignore. As great as their ball movement and chemistry can be, size remains a legitimate weakness. The modern NBA is dominated by tall, versatile players who can shoot, switch, and run the floor. The Warriors, for all their basketball IQ, can't always match that physically. So when Kerr chooses to go small, it works beautifully on offense, but it often leaves them exposed on the boards. That's why finding more minutes for Quentin Post and Trace Jackson-Davis is so important. They may not be finished products, but developing that interior presence early could pay huge dividends later in the season. When you think about matchups like Denver, Minnesota, or San Antonio, you can't help but imagine the problems Jokic, Gobert, and Wembanyama will create. These guys aren't just tall, they're skilled, and they make you pay for every defensive mistake. The Warriors have the spacing and shooting to counter that, but without a solid rotation of bigs who can hold their ground, it becomes a constant uphill battle. You can't outscore every opponent forever. At some point, you have to defend the paint. The good news is that Golden State's chemistry looks better than it has in a while. The locker room energy feels healthy. There's laughter, encouragement, and less tension than last year. Players are embracing their roles, even if they fluctuate from game to game. That kind of unity is what separates a good team from a great one. You can tell everyone's buying in. Even veterans like Horford are showing that willingness to adapt, playing fewer minutes on back-to-backs, mentoring young players, and staying engaged from the bench. Now, when it comes to facing the Clippers, this game feels like a real measuring stick. Los Angeles is deep, physical, and stacked with veterans who know how to win. Kawhi Leonard's defensive presence, Harden's ability to draw contact, and Chris Paul's floor control make them a nightmare to guard. The Warriors can't afford slow starts against that kind of experience. The first quarter will be critical. If they can come out aggressive, build a quick 10-point lead, and move the ball the way they did against Memphis, they'll set the tone early. One area that still needs refining, though, is the defensive rebounding. Too many second-chance points have been given up in recent games, and that's the type of detail that separates playoff contenders from championship-level teams. The Warriors' defensive scheme relies on rotations and help coverage, but when shots go up, everyone has to commit to boxing out. You can't rely on guards to out-jump big men like Zubac or Collins. That's where communication and discipline have to kick in. Another big talking point has been Pod's potential to become a long-term starting guard alongside Steph. The kid has the basketball IQ, the confidence, and the shooting to fit in that role. But defensively, there's still a learning curve. Playing next to Curry means you'll often have to take on the tougher matchup, especially against bigger backcourts like the Thunder or Rockets. Pods has to bulk up, anticipate screens better, and learn how to use his body more effectively. He's a smart player, and you can already see the effort, but experience will be his best teacher. Before we continue, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any exclusive Dubs updates. Let's keep going. Whispers are starting to swirl around the NBA, and none are louder than the one involving Golden State Warriors superstar Steph Curry. For over a decade, Curry has been the heartbeat of the Warriors, transforming the franchise into a dynasty and redefining the modern game with his unparalleled shooting ability. But recent murmurs suggest that the unthinkable might be on the horizon. Curry could be leaving Golden State. Sources close to the situation hint at growing tensions within the organization, fueled by questions over contract negotiations, team direction, and Curry's desire for a fresh challenge. While he has expressed unwavering loyalty publicly, insiders say there's a subtle but growing dissatisfaction with the current roster composition and the Warriors' ability to remain championship contenders in the near future. The whispers suggest that Curry might be eyeing opportunities elsewhere, potentially joining a team that could offer him a stronger chance at another title or a new environment to extend his legacy. This rumor has sparked wild speculation across social media and sports talk shows. Fans are torn between disbelief and the harsh reality that even legends sometimes move on. Some imagine Curry in a different jersey, perhaps pairing with other All-Stars in a blockbuster trade, or even taking a role in a rebuilding team that could use his leadership and sharpshooting prowess. Others insist this is just noise. After all, Curry's roots in the Bay Area run deep, and he has always seemed inseparable from the Warriors' culture and community. Analysts argue that a potential Curry exit would not just shake the Warriors, but ripple across the entire league. Teams would scramble to recalibrate their strategies, while the NBA narrative would pivot dramatically, turning a familiar powerhouse into a cautionary tale of loyalty, ambition, and the fleeting nature of sports dynasties. Yet, as the offseason looms, the burning question remains: is this the calm before a storm, or merely the fevered imagination of basketball fans hungry for drama? Either way, whispers about Steph Curry's future are intensifying, and the basketball world is watching every move, every hint, for a clue about what might be the most shocking twist in recent NBA history. Stay updated exclusively with the latest Dub Nation news. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to keep getting daily updates on the Warriors. Don't forget to share your thoughts in the comments. Your input is essential for the Dubs community. Stay tuned for the next video.